Welcome back to Four Sisters, where we will give you tips on self-care, self-awareness, self-confidence, and show you all the ways you can love yourself. So get ready to laugh, cuss, cry, and pray. Hi, guys.
Hi, girl.
Hey.
You are not matching my enthusiasm.
I never will.
Anyways, welcome back, guys, to episode 12. How's y'all's weeks been? How has your week been? You know what I mean. How's the week?
The week has been good. Had a little spice in my life yesterday.
Ooh.
Okay.
But other than that, things been great.
Okay. What about you, Cici?
It's been good.
Okay.
I've been out here living, just trying to figure out where.
Living my best life.
Can anybody in the podcast world tell me?
No, we don't care about your dandruff,
Okay.
Michaela. It's not the time.
I need
or
to
the place.
Okay. Never mind. Can I ask?
Ask them.
It was good. I just want to know where it came from and what y'all use for yours.
Head black and blue shoulders, Selsun blue. That's it.
Okay, but that's my only struggle for the week. I've been good out
I told her maximum trip scalpison.
Yeah.
Selsun blue though, right? Ain't that what
Selsun
they
blue's
say?
not for us.
Oh.
Maximum strength scalpison is.
You gotta get that blue magic.
You better get you a good scratching comb.
Petroleum jelly on your forehead.
Please don't. You better get you a good scratching comb.
Heard nobody.
Go wrong. All you gonna do is make your dandruff shiny.
I know. Apple cider vinegar, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I could have
You
got
can
that.
rinse it.
They got a rent. I'm gonna go back to Kroger's and get it because it's 50% off. They got a rent shampoo.
No.
Just
Get organic apple cider vinegar.
Pause. We just had a whole tangent. All right, so everybody's week has been good.
Yep. Dear Lord.
And yeah, my week's been fine. Awesome. Great. So let's kick it on over to you, Miss Dani. What's been going on in the Rants and Reeds street?
So Jada Pinkett Smith has a online talk show called Red Table Talk.
Spoiler alert, in case they ain't heard it.
Oh, I was like, I thought everybody knew. But no, so yeah, she has a Facebook Live and pre-recorded, depending on when you watch it. So this week she talked about substance abuse, and she had her mother and a singer, R&B singer, August Alsina. And with August Alsina, he talked about his addiction to opioids, specifically Percocets. And he was just like, I had an endless supply of Percocets. And so he said that he was just like, he didn't feel like he had a substance abuse addiction because, you know, his friends was taking 20 perks and he was only taking 6 a day. So he felt like because he wasn't taking 20, he didn't have an addiction, but he didn't acknowledge that 6 is like a lot. And it wasn't even prescribed to him. So it's not like he was using it for a real reason. So, but in his mind, he processed as it wasn't as bad as them. So
Not a problem.
then Jada Pinkett's mother talked about her heroin addiction for 15 or 17 years. I can't remember which one. But she talked about having a heroin addiction for 15 or 17 years and that, like, she was functioning. Jada knew she had a heroin addiction, but she was just functioning, which is normal.
Because Jada, they live with, in the previous episode, Jada was talking about, like, how she lived with her grandmother. Like, they all live with her grandmother.
Yeah, so, but the thing that gets me is Charlamagne the God. We're going to bring it back to him again. And I love him at the same time I hate
That's
him.
what I'm like.
I don't know what it is. It's like I love him some weeks and some weeks I'm like, you are so problematic. But
Problematic fave.
Yeah, exactly. And so he was talking about, well, Angela was talking about on the rumor report that this Red Talk happened. And he was just like, he was kind of criticizing Jada Pinkett because, you know, August Alsina was talking about being addicted to Percocets, which is opioids. And mom was addicted to heroin. Well, in his mind, when Jada said that she was addicted to sex, the gym, and wine, he felt like those were first world addictions and that didn't count. Mm-hmm. So what he did was say, oh, well, Percocets and heroin are real addictions that people struggle with, and your gym addiction and your wine addiction and your sex addiction is not like a real addiction. First of all, that is clinically not right. Second of all, you dumb. And third of all, why would you say an addiction? Who ranks which addiction is worse? Like, how do you? Is there a tier system for
and that's
like?
the problem now.
It's just like ranking problems.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, so in his mind, oh, you got first world addiction. People can't be addicted to wine. First of all, wine is an alcohol. Alcohol has its own diagnosis. So alcohol use disorder is an actual DSM-5 diagnosis. So you saying, oh, that ain't a real thing. Last time I checked, I get lit off wine.
And that's like not even considering the fact that if she's addicted to these things, she's got an addictive personality, and that can translate to something else if she picks it up.
And then on top of that, when sex addiction, first of all, not trying to throw Charlamagne.
And he didn't do that, like he didn't treat the sex addiction like that when Jennifer Lewis was talking about a sex addiction.
Well, not even that, but he was a serial cheater, which means that more than likely the undertone of that is he had a serial sex addiction. Mm-hmm. He wasn't having relationships. He wasn't going into these things for monogamy, and he was out here effing everything walking. That is considered a sex addiction because it impairs his functioning, which is his home life, because he had a whole girlfriend. Slash what? No, girlfriend. So
and we ain't even going to talk about how that ties back to his sexual abuse.
Either or. So, but so the thing that bothered me is the fact that people really are out here justifying addiction. They are really out here saying out loud where other people can hear them on platforms as large as the Breakfast Club that your first world addiction of sex, wine, and gym is not an issue. Like, we ain't seen roid rage. Like, we ain't seen folks out here popping whole muscles because they out here looking like who did it and what for. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't understand how somebody as... The thing that bothers me about Charlamagne is like, he's so smart to be dumb.
You know, I think it's when it goes back to that situation of like, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. But if you present yourself as an expert of all things, that's going to be problematic. I don't know if he presents himself as an expert. I think my issue, I don't have an issue with Charlamagne because I just, Charlamagne. But I could see how it could be frustrating for other people because you have this whole platform and you're saying these things and other people hear it and they adopt those same attitudes and mentalities, and it's not based off of anything of like fact and substance.
It's a whole opinion.
Sucks. Yeah. And I think if it was presented in a way that it was like, my personal opinion is this versus this is right and this is wrong, we probably wouldn't even be ranting about him right now.
And I mean, the thing about it that bothers me the most is like, if you're going to have your opinion, say, in my opinion, I think that, make it so it's not, well, that's not even an addiction. Like, you're saying it as if you're matter-of-facting this conversation. You can start out by something like, you know, in my opinion, or, you know, I think, or I feel, or what, but make it so it's very clear that you're talking for yourself. And not for, you know, the American Psychiatric Association or American whoever in counseling and all. Like, don't do that. Yeah. So that's my read. Like, I love Charlamagne. I'm still side-eyeing him from when he was telling fat folk to just willpower through exercise because I'm still fat today, and that willpower thing worked for a smooth 3 months. But I will be honest and say, when you have a platform that large, you just have to be very mindful of how and what you say.
That's it?
Yes, that is it.
Ooh, okay. Well, let's stroll on down.
It's something about eating ice cream while you're talking about being fat that just makes you feel sad on this.
The fact that you were ranting and eating ice cream at the same time.
And they ended it with, and that's why I'm still fat now. It's like, oh, it's full circle, Jesus. Ooh, but anyway.
Let's skedaddle on down the street to something else. Thank you for that rant.
We're going to have a special segment of Kay's Corner today, and we're going to allow Miss Dani, who's the substance abuse expert on our team here, to kind of give us some background information, some facts and some things about addiction so we can be more knowledgeable and more aware of what's going on and how we can treat or get someone around us that need help, whether it's you or somebody else.
That part.
So I don't want to say I'm a substance abuse expert. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. But I know a good amount of stuff about, I'm in progress. We're going to say that. I'm in progress.
That is your specialty.
That is one of my specialties. You're right. So, The one thing about substance abuse is that a lot of people don't realize is that substance abuse is determined in levels. So back when we had the DSM-4 TR, which is something that y'all don't care about, but back when we had the DSM-4 TR, substance abuse was categorized by use and dependence. In the DSM-5 is determined by mild, moderate, or severe. Now everybody knows what mild, moderate, and severe means. I don't think I should have to go too far. Like mild, I drink 1 or 2 glasses of wine a day in the same setting.
What is the difference between use and dependence?
Use and dependence is saying, okay, let me give you an example. Use is saying I drink wine in social settings. Every time I drink wine, it's 2 glasses. But it's only in social settings. I don't go home and drink wine. I don't have a bottle of wine in my refrigerator. But, and like all these things specific to like functionality. So when we say functionality, it's home, school, community, work. So if you're only in the social setting, which is community, and you're drinking wine and only in this setting, then it's use.
Oh, so I use wine.
Okay. But dependence is I drink wine at home, at school, or before school, or before work, or after work, or after, like, I do it in more than one setting. Mm-hmm. So the difference is the amount, the frequency, and the duration. So I may drink for hours. I may drink myself to sleep every night.
Yeah, that just sounds exhausting.
Or when you hear people say stuff like, well, if I don't have a glass of wine, I can't go to sleep. That's dependence. Because now you are dependent upon this glass of wine to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. But now to talk about mild, moderate, and severe. Mild is going back to more of the use. Like use is, okay, I'm using it in this setting. I don't need it to function. It helps in this setting to like, I may have anxiety, social anxiety. So I'm using wine to kind of calm down. Whereas moderate is like, I'm drinking like 5 to 6 cups in 1 or 2 settings of, wine or beer or alcohol, vodka, rum, Hennessy, etc. Severe is I smoke weed before I go to work. I smoke weed when I get off work. And I do this every day of my life, including on the Lord's Day. Oh. I smoke every day of my life. That is severe.
Does it matter how much you smoke?
Well, here's the thing. When it comes to the way that they do it, alcohol is the only thing that's technically measured. The reason why it's measured is because it's the legal substance out of all of them, unless it's an opioid. Opioid is also measured as well because that's not technically, if you're using substances, it's illegal, but it's normally prescribed. Sometimes you could just overuse it. So if you overuse it, say you're supposed to take 2 amphetamines a day, you are overusing it if you're taking 5.
Okay, so in that instance, it's like, okay, so if the substance is weed, then if somebody's like, I have a puff a day, that's going to be the same.
No puff a day.
Look, I know that. But use, though, or dependence would be, I having a puff a day every day. That's going to still be the equivalent of smoking.
Like a blunt every 2 weeks. A whole blunt. Like if it's a puff a day, I could assume it'd be like a.
No, I'm saying blunt. Like even a person who's saying, oh well, I just smoke a little bit every day versus somebody that's like is a gram a lot?
A gram is a lot.
Okay, I smoke a gram a day. That would be the same, just based off of that dependence.
I see where you're going with that. If somebody smokes a blunt a day, that's still the equivalent when it comes to diagnosis wise of smoking a gram a day. Because here's the thing about marijuana. The issue is not how much you smoke, it's the intention. So the intention is to be high. If you're high every day, it's not that you smoked a gram or you smoked 2 grams or you smoked 2 blunts. You're still high every day. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily how much you smoke. Now, how much you smoke is an important factor.
I asked that question specifically because I know... No, girl. No shade for the people who smoke. But no, I asked that question specifically because I feel like people, when we talk about weed, most people that look like us are going to be like, well, it came from the ground, it came from the earth, it's fine.
I tell people, and I have a lot of clients who do come because they're court ordered for substance abuse treatment. And it's because they got caught with marijuana or they smoked marijuana or they failed a drug test because of marijuana. And they don't see it as, because everybody else says marijuana is great. There's no real side effects. But here's the truth about marijuana. There are a lot of real side effects, and one of them is lack of motivation. The people really don't realize that when you get into a habit of marijuana, smoking marijuana, whether it's one blunt, one puff, whatever that is, or a gram, whatever it is, you are not focused on your goals. You are not focused on the next step. You are high. You are in a stupor. You are eating. You're got the munchies. You looking out the window when it rains and snows. You doing a whole bunch of stuff to, focus on everything but what the next goal, what the next step is. Now, I had one client tell me, Jay-Z and Diddy smoke marijuana, but they also had a team of people that do a lot of things for them so they can go smoke marijuana. You ain't got a team. You still out here trying to build from the ground up. So when you get the team, then come holler at me about smoking marijuana. Yeah. If you got somebody that dusts your shoes in the morning and picks out your outfit, yeah, you can smoke a blunt. If I thought it was worth Bentley, I'd do it too.
So the everyday, so I can understand it. So the everyday civilian who would smoke the same amount as Diddy would smoke could possibly have two different disorders. Basically,
well, no, they still have a disorder.
Well, I'm talking about depending on the level of functioning. Like the severity level may be different.
I guess
depending on where they're impeding on their functioning.
So, are you saying that the diagnosis will be there for either one, but the functionality is going to be different?
Right. Okay. So when I say that, homework, school, or community are very important when it comes to impacting your functioning. Those are your functions, what you do every day. But Diddy's not going to impact his function because he has people who have it. However, he still has the diagnosis. Right. The regular civilian has the diagnosis and it's impacting their functioning. So either or, they both have the diagnosis. I mean, I don't know how much Diddy smokes, so I can't.
Well, yeah, it wasn't the saying Diddy smokes, but it was just the celebrity way celebrities versus a real person walking down the street.
I was going to ask, I hear a lot of people also have the argument about marijuana not being such a big thing because it's not like a gateway drug, or is it a gateway drug?
It is a gateway drug. It is the only gateway drug. And the reason why is because here's the thing about, and I said this last episode, people smoke in social settings. They realize how great a high is. That's the first thing. You might go to a party, you may go to wherever, you might go to a pool, wherever. You smoke, you realize how great the high is. You realize that while you were high, everything was fine. You were laughing, you were joking, you were having fun. And then when you get to this high, you realize, well, I'm normally like stressed, anxiety, depressed, etc., trauma, blah, 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 these mental health things. But when I was smoking, I didn't worry about none of that. So then it goes from social to serious. So it goes from social, I did it because of this reason.
It goes from use to dependence.
And so then you have this issue of how it becomes a gateway drug. You're always going to chase your first high. Your first high is never going to be your every high. Your first high is going to be your best high. Period. Scientists, research, everybody says your first high is going to be your best high. Now what happens is that's why it becomes a gateway drug. Because if you get to the point where you're chasing the same high and eventually you smoke weed every day, it's not going to have the same effect after a while.
Right.
Like you're going to be high, but it's like your high may not last as long, may not be as strong. You can smoke loud. People out there, you can smoke loud. That doesn't matter. You're still going to have the same response. It is what it is. It's kind of like taking Advil. After a while, you take one, that gets used to your body. You take two, you got to take three. And it's just, your body becomes what it is.
Tolerant.
And
I'm learning, girl.
I know, but you just keep saying these words like tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm learning out loud. Y'all know I got ADHD.
But so that's why it becomes the gateway drug, because when you start and you realize how good the high is, you're like, I wonder how the high is for other things. Somebody may introduce it to you. Somebody may lace your marijuana. You don't realize it. You lace your marijuana. A lot of people get laced with stuff like angel dust. Rat poisoning can be cut with marijuana. A lot of people get crack cocaine with DMX. But there's things that people lace your marijuana with, which makes the high excel. So then you go from this plain high to this strong high. And you're like, well, I like that strong high. Gateway.
Right. Mm-hmm. I just hear a lot of people saying, I only smoke, weed, so I ain't never gonna be smoking, or doing anything else and stuff.
Unless you grow and cut and manage your own marijuana, you don't know what you're smoking. And I don't think people realize how many times that if you want to sell a product, you will create the product in a way that you can make money off of it.
Mhm.
If everybody's selling a dime for 10, if everybody's selling a quarter, well, I'm not going to go into price, but if everybody's selling for what the amount is, you got to be competitive,
Right.
Oh, I'm going to give you more for 10. Oh, your bag bigger for 10. But you don't realize that your bag is not fully marijuana. It may be cut with this. It may be something added into it. You don't know. You roll your blunt. You smoke it. It's too late. Ask DMX. But, and I think a lot of people don't realize that it's very important to realize what some of these drugs are. So when we say stimulants, a stimulant is crack or cocaine, liquid cocaine, that booger sugar, or alcohol use is alcohol, obviously. That's wine, beer, hard liquors, rum.
Dani, what's booger sugar?
Booger sugar is crack, cocaine. Cannabis use, of course, is weed. Weed is loud and all that other stuff, mid, etc. Tobacco use, obviously, is tobacco. It's chewing tobacco and smoking tobacco. Substance abuse is the whole drug category. Hallucinogens, LSD, stuff that makes you, shrooms, stuff that make you not
Hallucinate.
Yeah, hallucinate. Opioid is you have legal opioids like oxy and hydrocodone, but then you have illegal opioids like heroin, or meth. So people don't realize that, one, we always look at the substance. Now let's go to things that are not substances that are categorized as addiction. Sex, gambling, y'all in them scratch-offs. Dollar scratch-offs are addictive too, just because I had somebody tell me, we only do dollar scratch-offs, but if you do $70 worth of dollar scratch-offs, it's an addiction. You might as well get $20. You got a better chance of winning.
Amen.
But, so yes, gym, working out, dieting.
Yeah.
Dieting always can lead to binge eating, anorexia, eating and feeding disorder.
Purging.
Video game.
Let me holler at y'all. Woo! Girl, 'cause this is a brat on my soul. I'm so tired of y'all playing video games thinking that it is normal to spend that much time doing the same thing. I don't care if you were laying down watching TV. If you're watching a movie, cool. If you're watching 2 episodes of something, it's an hour, cool. But the fact that some of y'all revolve y'all whole stank lives
around
video games,
Your
it
lives
kills
is
me.
stanking.
Because when people say, well, I just use, you can overuse, you can overindulge in anything. I have an addiction to Ben & Jerry's Cherry Garcia ice cream. I overindulge all the time. It is a habit. That's not. Ooh, you tried it. But everybody has their vice. The difference is if your vice impacts your functioning. We're going back to functioning. If this impacts my health and I'm eating it for morning, noon, and night, you don't think that's going to impact my functioning?
Yeah, girl, ain't you lactose?
I am very lactose, but I got pills. But so I already took them this morning. But so if you say I'm playing video games and I'm going to play video games for 3 hours, and then while you're playing video games, the house done caught on fire, the kid done ran out the front door, somebody is outside fighting and got shot, and you still playing video games, it's a problem. If you can't take care of your kids, if you can't do the basic functioning ADLs, which is activities of daily living, if you can't brush your teeth first, if you can't wash your butt first, if you can't scratch the dandruff out your hair first before you play video games, it is a problem.
And you know dandruff is a sensitive subject right now.
I know. It's a lot of dandruff in these streets. Yeah. But I think that what people don't realize is they hear substance use and they're thinking that's the only addiction out there. Everybody has a vice. And when I say vice, that is something that could border addiction or could just be something normal. But when it impacts your functioning, with your health, etc., that becomes an issue.
Okay. So when people are listening to this episode, right, and now they're realizing that some things that they may be using, that they think they're just using, they have a dependence on, what is the steps that you're supposed to take now?
Well, the first step, and this goes back to our stages of change conversation, the first step is awareness. There's a lot of people who, like August Alsina will say, I was taking 6, they were taking 20. I don't have an addiction. They got an addiction. Mm-hmm. But if you're taking 6 Percocets a day, you have a severe addiction. One, that weren't prescribed to you, which means that's illegal. You can't drive around, get caught by the police, and not go to jail if you have 6 Percocets that are not prescribed to you.
And first of all, the one time I got my wisdom teeth taken out, and they gave me Percocets, and I'm pretty sure that bottle said you're not supposed to do anything that requires you to move while you're taking this.
Really?
Yeah, child. I took one Percocet. The whole time I took one Percocet, I was so out of it. I was like, nah, I'd just be in pain.
My mom only gave me half of mine, and I thought I was floating in it.
Like, nah, bro.
I've never had it. I remember when I got my wisdom teeth pulled out, but I was living in my mom's house.
Yeah.
Oh, I do remember because I was slobbing while she was to me. And my mom was like, she took the magazine and caught the spit. But,
so if I took one Percocet and I was bedridden, probably paralyzed.
Taking 6.
How you take?
But they build a dependence. Yeah. So you start off with one, and then like Advil, and then you just build your dependence. But that's with everything. I have a client who snorts 2 lines of cocaine, does a 5th of Hennessy, smokes a blunt, and takes a pint of codeine. That would kill me.
Me too.
But when you start small and your body becomes used to it, that is the norm for your body.
It's not to the bed, child.
But I think that what we have to remember is that, like I said, anything can be an addiction. Anything in excess is an addiction.
Social media.
Your
cell phone.
If you have a Snapchat streak of 937 and cry for 2 days because you lost a streak, that is an addiction.
So now that we all out here realizing that there's some addictions, don't feel bad. Maybe you gonna go and decide that you want to do something about it. Maybe you're not, but I was realizing that there's some dependence. Nothing wrong with dependence, as long as you do something about the dependence. That's what I'm hearing.
I mean, yeah, I think that when you are, I'll be honest, there's a lot of narcissism in addiction. That's not a research thing. That's just a me opinion thing. And the reason why is because you don't care how much it impacts other people. Your goal is the addiction. You don't care about everybody else. You don't care about family. You don't care about, and it's not that you're intentionally doing it. Mm-hmm. You're doing it by product of the substance. You're so addicted to whatever it is that by product, you don't care because it's more about this addiction than it is anything else. And so then your family and your relationships suffer. Then your work relationships suffer. I had this guy I knew that smoked all the time, never could keep a job, and felt like there was but ain't nothing wrong with smoking marijuana. Clearly, if you can't keep a job, there's something wrong with smoking marijuana. But the rationale is like, I'm going to justify why I use this.
Oh, that made me think too. And like, what does withdrawal symptoms play into it? Because I had a client that was like, it wasn't even necessarily the high that they were chasing. It was more so trying to avoid the withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah. Depending on the drug, I think alcohol is the only drug. There are 3 medications to treat alcoholism, but there's no medication to actually treat alcoholism. And when I say that, it kind of contradicts myself, but there's no medication that you can truly take that stops you from using. Like, there's a lot of medications you could take for opioids and all other types of drugs. But alcohol is the one that's very hard because you can die from alcohol detox. Mm-hmm. If you do it by yourself, you can truly die from it. Mm-hmm. You can die from alcohol intoxication. So, some of these withdrawals are a lot more devastating than others. But then the other ones, you get irritability. Then you get anger, you get aggression, you get rage. The things that were probably not there before are now there now because your body is trying to get used to it. Moodiness. Now nobody want to be around you because you're cussing everybody out because you're going through withdrawal. So it's easier to stay on it and deal with the symptoms that you do know and that your body's used to than coming off of it and dealing with something that is equally or as bad or worse. I say that some drugs, if you're going to detox, research the detox first. My substance abuse supervisor always says, like, research the detox first. Because if you're just like, I'm going to go cold turkey, I'm tired of this. You need to research what you're putting yourself into before you just say cold turkey. Mm-hmm. And that's everything down to tobacco. Tobacco use disorder is a thing too. People who smoke tobacco for years and years and years don't care about lung cancer. So if they don't care about lung cancer, detox is going to be what for them? Like, you're not going to scare them. Oh, you can get lung cancer. You're going to die. okay, I'm gonna die with a cigarette. Bury me with it. So it is a very difficult thing. Know what you're detoxing. Know what you're withdrawing for. There are a lot of 28-day programs for detox. Go to one. Trust a trained professional.
So would the recommendation be like going to someone being like, I have this addiction, can you point me in the direction of detox?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one, if you have insurance, contact your insurance agency. If you don't have insurance, go to a community agency. There's going to be a community agency in every community, keyword community, and then see how they can set you up or help you with insurance. Every state has their own state funded and county funded insurance. If you can or you cannot do either or, then they may put you on a payment program. But whatever it is, there's going to be a fit no matter where you go.
So what if we know people and we listen to you talk and we're like, oh, this person probably has a dependence on X, Y, or Z. Mind our business.
Did you just answer the question? It's like you asked the question, we're like, mind our business. I'm like, well, it depends. Okay. Because, people get very angry and upset when you point out the obvious. So people get very angry and upset when you point out the obvious, specifically those who are using or have any type of addiction. That's video games. That's anything.
What is that? Denial? Is that denial, anger?
That's denial. That's avoidance. That is byproduct of mental health and substance abuse. That's the same thing on both sides. But I think that people don't realize that when you are addicted, you have to find the right way to talk to somebody. You can't go and be accusatory like, oh, I know you using and you stole my DVD player for crack, that booger sugar, and I'm a report. Like you gotta be careful at how you talk to somebody who has an addiction. You gotta be very empathetic. You have to understand what you're talking about. You need to research before you have a conversation. They know more about that drug than you do, so you're not gonna go in there and tell them nothing that they don't know.
So having an intervention may not
piss people off.
I don't think that have ever seemed like a good idea, because who wants to be ganged up on about a problem that they're going through?
Right. And I think the initial idea of an intervention really was just for you to see that you have a support system of people who care, and that if you don't get better, then, we don't. Well, one thing we've learned about mental health and we've learned about substance abuse is that it is an internal motivation that drives consistent withdrawal, and not an external motivation. Internal is, I want to quit because I am ready to quit, right. Not because these people in this intervention want me to quit and they're going to leave me. Because that's not going to do nothing but get you a less family member, friend, or whoever. Mm-hmm. So, but they think that the world is already against them. So if you have an intervention and you show them that their support system is against them, then you're playing into their mental health or their substance abuse. But thank you for listening to me talk about things. And shout out to those folks who play video games that don't think it's a problem. It's a problem.
Thanks, Dani, because that was good. And it was soulful for me, because I don't deal with substances on a daily basis. I know the very basics. I don't know many of the details that you gave today.
And I was asking questions because I was like, whenever people telling me things, I just want to be able to say that I got some facts. When you tell me that you can't be addicted to weed, I'm gonna be like, well, actually, Dani said.
Well, the DSM-5 said you can be addicted to. It's a whole cannabis use disorder.
All right, well, thank you, Miss Dani. So, today, Miss K is going to actually be our Sistah Circle leader. Facilitate. Or words, man. I'm having a hard time today. So, I'll throw it on over to you, Miss K.
All right. So, question number 1. Some people say addiction is not a disease, it's a choice. My question to you guys is, did you ever think this way prior to the knowledge base that we have now, or have you always viewed it as a disease? Or what would you say to the people who view it as think it's a choice and not necessarily a disease?
I used to think that it was a choice, and I think that now that I am a therapist and I have some information about it, and just kind of like through my trauma training, things that I've learned about the impact of trauma on substance use, I've started to realize that it's not necessarily a choice and it is a disease. It's because like with trauma, basically it kind of triggers that happy part of your brain. And so you start to associate happiness with this drug. You're not feeling happiness in your life, so now you're getting that happiness that you used to have prior to the trauma with this drug, especially for like women. There's a high correlation for substance abuse in women who've experienced trauma. So now that I know that, and then I see people struggle with it, I'm like, I wish that more people got training to understand that so that they could be more supportive of the people around them who are suffering from an addiction.
Cici?
I'm gonna agree. I thought that it was a choice at first, but like Sasha said, after training and stuff, and actually being around people who have been addicted to things and realizing that it has really spiraled out of control, and it may have started out as a choice with doing it socially, but stressors and all those things that come along, it became a real dependence and a real need to have it so that they could present a certain way. So yeah.
And I take it differently because I feel like when you grow up seeing someone who has substance abuse issues, you always think it's a choice. And that's because you are in it. You're not using it, but you're in it. So in your mind, you're like, why don't they just stop? You know, if they love me, why wouldn't they just stop, or et cetera, et cetera. But then when you grow up, you mature, you realize, you know, either you've used or, you know, you've become a little bit more mature and researched and et cetera. But you realize there's really a science behind addiction. And addiction is not something that you can just stop. So, like, you grow up with a parent who's, like, smoking cigarettes. And you're like, but you're going to have lung cancer. You're going to die. And then you realize, like, the addiction is more important than anything. And it's not that, you know, they don't know. It's that they can't control it. But when you're young and you grow up in it, you don't realize that.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that. That would have been similar to what I would say. Number 2, do you guys think it's a difference between race play a role in addictions versus like who gets treatment versus what drugs get consequences?
I definitely think that there are drugs that are more demonized than others. And then sometimes the substances that are more used by other races have a little bit more grace, or there's more treatment options for those that are readily available than other things. But that's the way I perceive it, and I could be wrong.
I mean, it's statistically factual. I mean, like,
okay.
You know, I was watching D.L. Hughley on The View the other day, and he said that, you know, we look at African Americans as criminals. And we look at African American, like, people look at African Americans as criminals for different reasons, whether it's, you know, robbery, shooting, etc., drugs, etc. But I don't think we realize, like, opioids is a predominantly white epidemic. That's facts. That's statistics. It doesn't happen in a lot of our neighborhoods. It just doesn't. But when you had crack in the 80s, that was all our neighborhoods. The difference is that we had systematic incarceration based off of the epidemic that was in our neighborhoods. There were a higher penal system or penal penalties for our neighborhoods, where it is support and care in their neighborhoods. So their epidemic and crisis is opioids, and they're treated as, oh, well, we gotta help them. But in our neighborhoods, oh, well, they're criminals, so we have to hurt them. We have to incarcerate them. We're not going to help them because there's no help in prison. It's incarceration. And so when you look at that, that creates the foundation as to why we are more institutionalized and why in our neighborhoods there is no support and help.
Facts.
Big facts. I was trying not to go into all of it, but there it is.
For the people. Yeah. Man, oh man, growing up in a very rural area, that's all you saw. That's always war on drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, like cocaine, which is a white man's drug, has way less drug. I mean, it is. It's considered a white man's drug. I didn't say that booger sugar, but cocaine, which is a upper class drug, is it is penalized less and is given less time than crack, which is the rock form, because it's cheaper and it is more for African Americans. It's the same drug in 2 different forms, but one is higher and one is lower. It is what it is. That booger sugar is real.
Did it become booger sugar before or after?
Good question. Before or after which one?
Was upper class or did it become big?
Like, when you think of, like, I'm not trying to say this to be mean. When Oprah Winfrey interviewed Whitney Houston, Do y'all remember that?
Was
And
it Oprah that interviewed her when she said that?
Yeah, I think it was Oprah. Because they were on like a stage or something. Yeah, and like Oprah asked her like direct, like, do you use crack? She said, no, honey, I use cocaine. Because
she
there
said
is a
crack
privilege.
is whack. Crack is cheap.
No, it was Diana Sawyer. You're right. I knew it was somebody that does interviews. But when she asked her straight out, she was like, it was almost offensive because crack cocaine is a privileged drug. I mean, excuse me, cocaine is a privileged drug. It is seen completely different. Like, people will say, I smoke cocaine, but then they will shun you if you smoke crack or you snort crack or you but then like, Whitney, you still on drugs, girls? When you sweating in the interview? Go ahead.
All right. On to something else. Fun facts about us, possibly.
Ooh.
Do you have any harmless bad habits? If so, how does it affect you and or others around you?
Ain't none of my habits harmless.
Ain't none of them harm? Well, I mean,
I think somebody might look at it and be like it's harmless, but I know that it ain't harmless for me because clearly it ain't healthy. Like eating snacks when I'm not hungry could be harmless.
Just live to eat, not eat to live.
Exactly. So I'm trying to figure out how to stop eating carbs just because I'm feeling a little stressed out and I got to go and eat a taco or some bread or some cookies or some cake or something that has bread. Something that has bread in it because it makes me feel comfort. That is not harmless, but it's a bad habit. Yeah.
I have addictions by the year. And I don't know.
Like buying shoes?
Yeah. Like by the year. And y'all know me. Year round, I eat ice cream. I don't care if it's cold, hot. I don't care what the temperature is. I ate ice cream for breakfast this morning. I eat ice cream in unhealthy ways. That's my stress eat. I will eat ice cream. I don't need carbs. I want ice cream. And so I become, when I'm happy, sad, mad, upset, or whatever's on the feelings wheel, like you can spin it and hit one, and I'm going to eat ice cream because of that reason. My other issue is every year I come into a different addiction. Like 1 year I bought too many shoes. 1 year I bought too many scarves. I did buy too many shoes. I bought like 51 pair of shoes 1 year. 1 year I bought, we can't be judging in this episode.
Just acknowledge it.
1 year I bought too many scarves. 1 year I bought too many sandals. 1 year I bought too many purses. 1 year I bought too much jewelry. Every year I have a new addiction.
Shopping is it?
Is that it? I never thought about that. My addiction is shopping. Awareness. Until now, look at this breakthrough. I'm just in my mind. I always categorize it as like shoes, bags, blah blah. But I never thought like overall my addiction is shopping. I guess I should go to DSW after I leave here. I got a coupon.
But when we said it earlier, you were snappy.
I got a coupon.
Cici.
Well, I definitely can say that food is real. Like I will be on my last dime, but.
You ain't never too broke for food, child.
You scrape them pennies together in your ashtray.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have used gift cards. Multiple ones to get food. So food is real. But another thing I'm starting to realize, and I need to get a handle on it, is like being on social media. There's anytime Dani will come to my office, she's like, you don't like you're doing work. I'll be on my phone. And I will sit there and I'll be typing something and I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on. Okay, I gotta stay focused. And it take me 2 hours to write a note.
Yep.
It should only take me like 15. So
social media is really one of those.
It is.
I'm gonna start calling that book sugar.
Yeah. That is a good look at this. But I mean, social media is one of those where it creeps up on you.
Yeah.
Like you one day is just on Facebook, then you got Instagram, then you might have a Snapchat, then you might have a Twitter. I mean, and then next thing you know, you got to go toggle through all of them. Like what's going on everywhere? Yeah. And that's like, oh my God,
And you find yourself in like a loop real quick. Like you'll be like, oh, let me go look at such and such, and now it's 12 o'clock, and you like, dang, where did they go?
When Dani was given the difference between like how it impedes on your ability to function, I was like, social. That's the first thing that popped in my mind, because I say I give myself 30 minutes, so I circle through all of the social medias and take all of the 30 minutes. Like I will circle back and forth.
I've been late to work because of social media.
Told me the other day that I have scrolled.
Did you take a quiz?
No.
It said you're all done.
It did.
Yep.
It was like you have been updated from the past 3 hours, because I was just like,
I've never. Hey, sister, let me talk to you real quick. I didn't know that existed.
Oh.
You want me to
Let me tell you,
I've never heard of that before. Instagram was like, you done, girl.
okay, because so I used to just like randomly through different parts of the day go and check my social media. For real.
And then I went through and looked back at the old stuff.
Exactly. Nah.
And then I would hit the thing.
I stopped. Right.
Instagram. And I'm on Instagram.
I stopped when it says I'm done, and I appreciate that, because I'm like, okay.
Yo, I gotta go to
It's bad.
I've never seen that message that y'all keep getting. I've never seen it. I've never seen that.
For real.
Instagram said ain't no more Instagram.
And I had to cut back. For real. It's a thing. And I had to cut back because I was like, well, I'm spending too much time throughout my day. So then I would just do it in the morning and at night. But it was like hours before I could get to the you're all done. And I was like, man, like I can't keep doing this.
And I
can't do
I
this.
justify mine by saying that I can't scroll through my social medias in the morning until I read my daily scripture.
Well, you know what? I give myself 30 minutes in the morning, but I actually cut my phone off like an hour or two during the day. So a lot of times when y'all be messaging, my phone is off, because if it's off, and it has to be face down. Because then if it's face up in my mind, the phone's talking to me, a little face pops up, and it's like, cut that phone over. But I will like face down. Sometimes I'll put it in that basket that's on my desk. I got out of sight, out of mind, and I'll power through for like 2 hours, and then I'll cut the phone back on, because I know that I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna go on Instagram, I'm gonna stop and go on Twitter, and then I'm gonna get lost, and then that's it.
Honestly, it's not even just that. Like, I don't know how I made it this weekend without the like group me messages, but like I be looking. I've been looking to see like did anybody say anything, and after the fact that like it didn't notify me, now I be like, let me look and see. Let me open the app and see.
Because I was like, since you were real quiet this weekend, she was like, y'all was messaging? I was like, yeah, we was messaging. I didn't even get no message. I was like, your phone was like, you need to chill out.
Right.
Your phone is rebelling. Your phone said you are cut off.
And I had to realize, I'm like, yo, I'm spending hours, and I don't even really care that much about it. It's just like I don't want to miss out on something. Like, oh snap, I don't want to be talking to y'all. Be like, Sasha, did you see such and such? And I ain't see it. Oh, I gotta send y'all this funny video.
Every once in a while, I do a social media. Every once in a while, I do a social media detox, because I get so overwhelmed with the opinions of other people. You kind of lose yourself in it, and you're like, who am I again? Like, what are my opinions?
I told y'all I want to let it go.
Comment sections and. I get angry, and I'm just like, this is dependent. You can't be going through that gamut of emotions.
And you start thinking about how it like messes with just it does mess with your functioning to a certain extent. And so, I mean, I try to do my social media cleanses like quarterly, but then I've been toggling lately about like, maybe I should just be one of those weird social media list people. The fact that I even had to call them weird. Social media list.
You judging them already.
I know.
But social media is a different kind of beast. Because I literally had a client that had a 9, and I don't have a Snapchat. So when she explained to me what a snap streak is, she was just like, you just send them a message each day. So I was like, so you just text message them. And she was like, it's not the same. And she was like, well, you get a reward for it. I said, she was like, and actually, I had 2 clients this week, because one had a 200 and 300 streak. The other one had a 930. She remembered that number. 937-day streak.
And yo, it's crazy.
And it's only bragging rights.
I said, does it pay a bill? Does it pay the iPhone bill? Does it give you a free iPhone when you get 1,000? Like, what does it do?
When you think about all of it too, like for me, and sounds like from everybody, it's just about the scroll, but for some people, it's about the likes. Like, they constantly looking to see if somebody like their stuff, and it becomes addictive. Like, okay, well, they ain't like that. Let me do this. Let me do this selfie. Let me do this, and it just gets.
And that goes back to last week. You post a whole murder video on your daggone social media because you're gonna get likes. It's like, what kind of foolishness? Girls will put their whole titty out on Instagram and just for the like.
And not even realizing that like these people don't even really like you for real. They just like your pictures.
And
they like what you're posting.
Line in real life, they're gonna walk right past you. Because I walk past most of y'all because I don't know you.
Okay. We got all off track. I'm sorry. Okay.
What's the question?
Looking at, let's take it back to our childhood. I'm even refrain from this question. Take it back to our child because we kind of sort of got on the little ones about their Snapchat streaking. That's their addiction.
AOL Messenger.
I was about to ask, so what are some of the addictions that when we were growing up was
MySpace? And you know you was
I
real
used to train my team all the time. I had a different song.
The glitter phone.
We were real life web programmers.
Yeah. I really was.
Like,
I also used to be addicted to the top 10 at 8 on K9 Summer 5 because I would record the song and then I would try to play it without I would listen to it and try to cut the commercial out. I did that every day.
And y'all know on MySpace, if you was not in your friends' top 8 or top 5, like, it was some real problems. Yeah. Like, people real life have fought over not being MySpace tops.
What was the other thing called? The Planet.
Black Planet.
Oh, yeah.
I ain't never have a Black Planet.
I did have a Black Planet.
I met my first boyfriend on there.
On Black Planet? I think at Black Planet bring your families together.
Work out. I'm sure it wasn't a real boyfriend. Probably got catfish.
You were all getting catfish back then. But yeah, definitely AOL Messenger.
And then back when Facebook was .edu.
I used to let my gigapads die.
Oh, yeah.
Because they used to chime, and I'm trying to take a nap. You got to die real quick. Like, I'm for real.
My mama didn't buy me a real one. I only got the one from me.
I had a robot dog. He had to die. Somebody killed him in my house.
I did have a real one, though.
A shout out to my mama for killing my robot dog when I was younger.
She really...
Them robot toys
She hid it in the attic. It couldn't have ate. It wasn't living. Nobody was charging the battery. He died. He died in the attic.
Y'all remember them Furbies?
Furbies.
I'm gonna tell y'all a story when we cut the microphone off about some Furbies. Me and Madge had an experience.
An addiction, one of the addictions that's coming back that kids are being addicted to, that we as kids, well, I wasn't, but around me was the Pokemon cards.
Oh yeah,
kids would walk out in the traffic to catch a Pokemon.
They were trying to catch the Pokemons. We was just collecting the cards.
Oh, that wasn't me.
I had my Pikachu Gold card.
I have none of them.
No, that wasn't my age range.
But you can see them every day at playtime, at recess. When they
trading cards. Let me get a Charizard.
No, it was my Nintendo.
I used to kill Duck Hunt.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Mario Kart.
Finish it.
Dang, sit there for hours.
Tetris.
Oh, Lord.
I used to be addicted to Tetris.
Snap! Y'all remember Snake on the Nokia phone?
Girl,
I don't want to say nothing like that. I thought it was my own one.
Yeah, that's the first one I ever got.
They got Snake now. It's bad. I'm gonna show you.
Yeah, that Snake ain't the same. It's all 3D. They probably jump out the screen on you now.
And another thing, these little video apps like Candy Crush
Musical.ly and stuff like that.
Cookie Jam.
Yeah, I play it.
And if y'all shout out to those people on Facebook that play them all day because y'all ain't got no job, stop sending me requests. I ain't giving you no points. Go ahead.
So clearly we got a lot of addictions. We be feeding right on into it.
What's the next question?
That's crazy.
We out here judging. Look at us.
Last question. Back in school, they used to have programs like DARE. Do you think they were beneficial, or did they make you want to stay away from drugs?
I was an officer in DARE. I got like one of the little I was important things in there, so it helped me. I thought I was doing something for the community.
I'm a scary person.
T-shirt.
I'm about to say t-shirts.
Yeah, t-shirts.
There was some good shirts.
I was just there for the video. Well, I was not there for the videos, but when they showed me them videos of people that was like on heroin and stuff like that was missing the teeth, missing half the spots and blotches on their face, that made me not want to touch a drug. That scared because I'm just a scary person. I can't get on roller coasters, so it's hard. You won't catch me. But so that helped me stay away from drugs. I ain't gonna lie. And I was thinking about showing my kids. Because it scared me, maybe it'll scare them.
Girl, that didn't work. Scare tactics go away. That's what you remember the show Scare Straight? Scare Straight didn't go away.
28 years old.
Well, it worked for you. Well, my daddy told me not to drink dark sodas because my teeth was gonna fall out. I didn't have my first one until I was like 24. But I will say this: some scare tactics do work. Mm-hmm. It depends on the messenger. But Dare didn't do anything for me because there were people like I think I was in the 4th or 5th grade when we did Dare. Maybe it was 5th grade. Mm-hmm. But when we did Dare, we knew people who was already smoking and using. So it's like you teaching me Dare, but like you know this person over here, like my bus stop is right across from the prostitutes. Okay. So like I see them using like so. I don't know. I guess it's because when you go home, it's like, what is there in the environment?
Now I told my mama, you got to stop smoking them cigarettes.
You told your mama?
Mm-hmm. She did stop. But
no, I
don't think it had nothing to do with that conversation.
Oh, one last question. Just to add to it. What is the strangest addiction you have ever heard of?
Y'all seen that show?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know exactly what show you're talking about.
That one girl, she was eating that washing powders. Like every time she would get anxious, she was eating washing powders.
That's a phase now, ain't it? Everybody eating it now, ain't it?
Is that?
Pods. Yeah.
Pods, yeah.
No, like the powders though.
I mean, I don't think liquid and
she was like
the difference is washing powder.
It's true, but I don't know.
The one that lady that was eating chalk. Like, girl, that don't got no
It was a lady that was eating her. It was like some family member's ashes. And then she was getting distressed because she was running out.
Oh, no.
She had to go kill somebody to get that.
Oh.
No, I'm sure I got that one in the episode. But there's this new habit that teenagers have. You can go to school drunk. You take a tampon, you soak it in alcohol, and you put it. Normally, it's supposed to put it up your anus, but sometimes they be putting it up their vagina, so I don't know how that works. But anus and vagina, they stick the tampon up there. And what happens is the difference between being drunk and people knowing you're drunk is because they can smell it on you. It comes from your pores. When you put it through your anus or your vagina, you actually don't smell it. So you can be drunk, but nobody can prove that you're drunk because it's not coming out of your pores. It's not, you don't smell on your breath, that kind of stuff.
That's dependence, right?
That episode of Claws. I don't know if anybody watched that, but
I need to catch up.
Niecy Nash. But the woman, she was a recovering alcoholic, and she went through some stress and decided she was going to break down, but she thought she was being slick by putting the alcohol inserting it in her vagina with the tampon. But her husband was like, you drunk, because she was acting a fool.
Yeah.
So
because it still goes through your system the same way. And some research says it goes
That's
through
some
quicker.
Dedication.
It is.
Strange addictions, child. Shout out to TLC. That's where the show come on.
They creep.
You stupid.
They have a song called Strange Addiction?
No, they got a show. My Strange Addiction.
Oh, I'm singing TLC Creep too.
The channel TLC, the learning channel, has a show called My Strange Addiction.
I don't remember that.
Are you calling it creeps? What are you doing here?
And
me and Nikela was somewhere completely different.
No, it's not. We're gonna pick up.
We already went downhill.
Thank you guys for joining in on the Sistah Circle. Whoop, whoop.
All right, so we have our very first Help a Sister Out letter.
Thank you guys for sending us all
Thank
the
y'all
letters.
so much for sending letters. I knew that we were on substance abuse, and there was one that's kind of relevant. So it says, hey y'all, I'm concerned about my brother, but I'm not sure what to do. He is really angry most of the time and really is only pleasant if he's been smoking or drinking. I think he should talk to someone, but I know he will say he doesn't want to tell a stranger his business. Please help.
So here's the difficult thing about it. You can want someone to get better. You can put all of your effort into it. Until that person is aware of their problem, you're going to be spinning your wheels. One, you have to be very mindful of how their mental health impacts your mental health. So if they have a substance abuse issue, you need to be aware of the boundaries that you need to set when you're around this person, because their mood impacts your mood, or their behavior puts you in danger, or whatever that may be. You have to kind of be aware of how that impacts you and then set some firm boundaries. Second, you can give them the support, but you have to be able to discern when you are ticking them off, when you're making them irritable, when you're making them upset. etc. Because your support can be counteractive a lot of the times, or counterproductive. And the last thing I would say is give that person, like, you can figure out what type of insurance they have. Go Google some places that take, do substance abuse treatment or outpatient therapists or whatever it is, and leave it for them and walk away. Sometimes you don't have to use words. You can word somebody to death. Ooh, literally. And they know. But until they get to the point where they're aware, all you can do is give them the resources, be their support, understand your boundaries, and move forward.
Mm-hmm. And, like, sometimes just, like, they're not going to take advice from you because if you're not using substances or something like that and you don't understand what they're going through, they may feel like they can't relate to you. But if there's somebody else who's been in a similar situation and that person can relate to them on that level and wants to talk to them, then, like, maybe you could do something like that. But ultimately, sometimes you just have to mind your business in these kinds of situations and maybe say something like, man, I remember when you used to be happy, or I remember when we used to have fun doing this, and, like, I really miss you. I wish we could get back to the way stuff was, but, like, maybe leaving it alone after that.
One thing I would add to that, saying is, no, like I said, knowing to back away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Jennifer Lewis said it in her interview. She was like, even for herself, she was like, only warn me 3 times. Only warn a person 3 times, or suggest a person get help 3 times. Because at that point, they're choosing not to hear you.
Yep.
Or their abuse or addiction is at a point where they cannot comprehend what you're asking them to do because it's beyond them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can support a person from a distance, I
Yep.
believe. Send them a postcard with all the awareness tags on it.
You gotta be mindful, like, that person has to have a reason to stop, like, whether it's their own reason, internal or external. But if it's because you want them to stop, that's not gonna be a good enough reason. So if you go to somebody, whether family or not, you're saying, you're hurting us. I don't care about you. Like,
I'm hurting me.
Well, I'm hurting me. So what you gonna do? I mean,
Or
you just gotta be
hurt.
mindful. That person has to have a reason. A lot of times people have these near-death experiences or bad experiences or health diagnoses and stuff like that. And that makes them change. But you just walking up and saying you're hurting us because you are using, that's not too much of a motivator. Like, it really isn't.
And, like, sometimes you just, have you ever talked to a therapist, like, you hear us or something like that? Like, sometimes people like to see something work before they're willing to try it close to them. Like, if you're going to therapy and you're changing and things, but you are going better and they see that, then maybe it's like, oh, you don't even necessarily have to say anything. They see the change in you and they're like, all right, that ain't even a bad idea. They might come up to you and say, hey, I've been noticing something, like, would you recommend a therapist? Or something like that. So, I don't know, girl. I hope that helped. Good luck. Remember, guys, send your Help a Sister Out letters to our inbox at forsisterspodcast@gmail.com. And we'll try to pick like 1 or 2 letters each week to read. But I felt like that one was fairly timely. All right, Miss Cici, sprinkle us on out.
Well, I just wanted to just give some information about how the Bible looks at addiction. It doesn't necessarily talk about like substance use or talk about the types of things we talked about today, but it does give a specific about idolatry. And basically that is anything that you worship or you put before your relationship with God that impacts your life, then that is basically an addiction. And the same things that you do that we've talked about getting help is what you would do in this situation. But there's examples such as, wealth, just doing things that are outside of what God created us to do and to be. I was reading a devotional the other day about how substance use and the way that God sees us. So God has created our bodies and our minds and our souls or whatever to be a certain way. And when you put substances or when you do something that's outside of the way God has created us, it's not going to work. So oftentimes people are struggling and they don't understand why they're struggling. And it doesn't have to be drugs. It can be your idea of wanting money, or it could be your idea of like, I'm going to focus on like just doing stuff that ain't right. And I'm going to call it a sin because it was called a sin in the Bible. But he creates us to do and be a certain way. And so when you have these other ideas and things that pop into place, it's not going to work out. Normally, it's not going to work out for you. So just be mindful of that. There are lots of people who struggle with addiction at church. And the best thing that as a Christian can do is continue to love them and support them. Again, there's stressors and things that come into play when they're using or doing things that are outside of the will of God. I always give the example of, or I read the example of, if you have an iPhone, but you try to use it in an Android system, it's not going to work. So there's things that you need to be able to do. Praying, do the things that we've talked about, getting some help or whatever. Recognize it, and you even have stressors or something that's bothering you, and get those things worked out first. And, you know, the power of prayer is real, and I don't knock it. I've witnessed miracles before. But, you know, pray. And another thing is, a lot of times when you have addiction, it's a secret. People try to hide those things. But when you come to God and let him know, like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, how can I get help? Then, you know, he will put forth the resources, those things, and it'll make you feel a lot better than focusing on being secretive and that kind of thing. And listen, there were people in the Bible who had things and the Lord turned it around. For example, Noah in the Bible drank a lot. But he used Noah to create this ark. And because he looked past the addiction and was like, I see your heart. And I know that you're going to do these things because your heart is good. And so we wouldn't really be here without the ark.
We had those 2 roaches.
Okay. 200 roaches.
So just be encouraged. Please be encouraged. If you be encouraged and just don't give up.
Man.
So since Jesus changed water into wine,
What is this?
Well, and I will go there because if you look back in biblical times, right? They didn't have the luxury of things that we have today. The water that they were using, animals were in the water bathing, humans were in the water bathing, so it really wasn't sanitary that much. So, and they didn't have the knowledge of
well, people in Flint don't got good water either. So water and wine.
So thank you.
That's a human flaw that could be fixed.
Thank you, Jesus. So you just
A little baby wine. It's a little use, not abuse.
The way people talk about, well, God must have created the weed. What didn't mean for you to use.
God created lettuce for salad. He didn't create weed for y'all to smoke in a blunt. Cut out. God made a head of lettuce for y'all to get healthy, but y'all want to use the blunt instead. Like, you ever know those people who smoke blunts don't eat salads?
Bah.
thank you so much, Cici, for that sprinkle. Although Dani ruined it by being secular. Thank you all for listening.
Water and wine was in the Bible. That's not secular. Ooh, you cried it too. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, social media. Matter of fact, follow us, but don't become addicted to following us. Get it?
It's got to be 3 sisters.
But either or. No, seriously, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at 4 Sisters Podcast. If you want to send us listener letters, again, thank you for the ones that you've already sent. But if you want to send us more, it's 4sisterspodcast@gmail.com.
Like, comment, and subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. We appreciate all you guys' love and support. Thanks for being our sisters. Bye.
And brothers. Bye.